Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Buck Rowell. Alright, my rain barrel arrived this past week and we're going to try and finish up this project. Now there's two parts to this and hopefully I'm going to try and get them both done today. First thing is there's a little assembly required on the barrel itself. That should be pretty simple, but then I have to redesign the rain gutter system that I'm going to have feeding this thing because the downspout has to be in a slightly different position than what it is. So that's going to require a little planning. I'm not quite sure yet how we're going to get that figured out, but we'll work it out. Sometimes you just got to look at the problem and figure out what you're going to do about it. But first thing I'm going to do is start with my rain barrel. So this is my rain barrel that arrived the other day, and we got to do a little bit of assembly, but that's kind of nice looking, right? It's good, big, solid, thick plastic. It should hold up for a while. One of the things I was looking for on a rain barrel is the ability to connect them together. And see, that's what this flat part is here. What I can do is I can connect it to another barrel, and when this one gets full, then it will drain into the other one and go like that. And so that's kind of a nice feature if I want to expand the system ever. Now, one of the things I was noticing is when I read the reviews for this, and I don't even think it was a Home Depot review, I think it was another thing I looked at, somebody complained that the valve at the bottom leaks. Now obviously it's going to leak like this because the valve hasn't been attached. Supposedly the valve is inside, but it's really easy to make sure this doesn't leak, and that is that you put some Teflon tape on the threads before you thread everything together. And so in all likelihood, that was the problem that this reviewer had, and they gave it a negative review because it leaked. But other than that, they said it was a good barrel, and once they fixed the leaking problem, they had no problems with it. So like I said, I'm going to put this thing together and we're going to go from there. Alright, so I've retrieved the hardware from the barrel, and yeah, it looks like even they've figured out that you need a little bit of Teflon tape in order to keep the seal good. So we're going to use that. We're going to get the spigot attached to the side of the thing, and then we're going to move outside onto the next part. And basically that's what the Teflon tape looks like. I just wrap it around the threads a couple times, go about 3 layers thick, and now when I screw this into the side of the barrel, the Teflon tape itself will kind of fill in the gaps, and it'll make sure that this water spout remains watertight always. And there we go, we've successfully installed the water spigot. So now I can actually plug a hose into this if I want, but like I said, since it's going to be high enough off the ground, I can just put a 5-gallon bucket into it and open up the valve. That's closed, that's open, and the water will come out. So we're that much closer to having free water for the garden. So here's the barrel in its final position, and I think it's going to work real well. Like I said, high enough above a 5-gallon bucket, so I can put a 5-gallon bucket underneath it and collect rainwater that way and move it to wherever I need. But the next thing I got to figure out how I'm going to do is to get the downspout to go into the rain bucket, because right now it actually goes down the side of the house and it goes into the front yard and then feeds out across the driveway. So I'm going to have to figure out how to move this over here and then have it come down directly into the barrel. So that's going to take a little bit of thinking. I'm going to probably have to cut this piece down here and replace it with another downspout piece and then route it down here. So like I said, this is going to take a little bit of time, but we'll figure it out. Alright, so I've been thinking about this a little bit. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut this section off here. And I'll probably cut it off about here, and then we'll extend it over here, put a downspout piece, and then put another extension on the end, and then cap it at the end. So I'm going to need to find all of that stuff. I think I can reuse most of the downspout, so I shouldn't need to replace any of that. But even if I do, I have one other downspout piece that's left over from when I put the rain gutter on the patio cover. So even if I do need a little bit more, I've got some to play with. So I'm going to run over to Home Depot. We're going to see if I can find a piece of this, another downspout piece, and then I think, and maybe an end cap. I'll probably need an end cap also. And then whatever I need to join them together. One of the things that I kind of noticed when I was looking at this is that this rain gutter section, which runs about 30 feet, is one single piece of metal. it isn't like multiple pieces connected together, which really kind of blew my mind, because even here when I got these, I was joining the piece together here in the middle. So I don't know, I guess that's what happens when you have a professional come in and do it. They just bring one big long piece. I can't imagine having to transport this, so this isn't something you're going to put in the back of a pickup truck, is it? Holy cow. Probably custom made for this house. Yeah, that's what I mean. These guys spent the money to make this house look good, and they did a good job. All right, off to Home Depot. All right, I've been to Home Depot, and unfortunately we're going to have a little bit of a change of plans here. Apparently these rain gutters are only things that you can get professionally made. These are not something you can go to Home Depot and get. And they got something very similar, but it isn't quite the same size and the same dimensions, and I can't get the parts that I need to modify that. So what we're going to have to do instead, I think, is we're going to move the rain barrel over here. It's not going to give us as much water as we got, because there's less surface area to collect it, but we should still get a decent amount. And maybe it won't be so bad, because what we're going to do, if we were catching the one over here, then it would have been this whole surface area of the roof. But catching it off the patio cover, it's going to be that whole surface of the roof plus the area of the patio cover itself. So I think we're going to end up putting the rain barrel here, and we'll move the platform over here, and this is just where it's going to have to live. This is the rain gutter that I installed in here myself a couple years ago. So this is just the real consumer stuff that you can get at Home Depot. So I got a couple pieces that I'll need to modify this, but this is going to be a little bit simpler of a project than I originally thought. But every once in a while you just got to be open-minded, having a change of plan. So rain barrel's going here now. Okay, so I've modified the downspout on this thing. It's basically just going down to this level here, and then that's going to just sit right over this hole here, and it will feed all the water from the downspout into this. Now, this thing isn't perfectly parallel, so there's a little bit of a gap between the bottom of this and the top of this thing, and that leaves the possibility that we might get a little splash over. So what I've done is I've created a little collar that's just going to go around the outside of this thing. It's not going to be attached, it's just going to be held on because it goes all the way around, and it will sit flush on this part and prevent the splashing that might result in the loss of water. So that thing is black when I finished it, so I wanted to paint it and make it white so it kind of goes in with the rest of this system here. But we're pretty much ready to go now. There's one more thing I just need a little time to finish off, and that's these things. I don't want the platform itself sitting directly on the concrete, because at that point there's going to be water getting into it, because water hits the ground, it'll get sucked underneath the wood, and ultimately it'll rot the wood out. So I'm going to use these as a little platform for the platform, if you will. These things are kind of a rubberized walking stone type thing that they put out, that there were a bunch of them in the yard, and I decided to clean a couple of them up. We're going to put them here on the concrete, and that will kind of lift this thing off the ground and hopefully prevent water rotting over time. So I'm going to let the paint thing dry a little bit. I'm going to let these things dry a little bit because I had to hose them off. They were all muddy. And then we're going to put the whole thing together, and I'll show you what it looks like. Now, it turns out that I didn't figure out at Home Depot that the rain gutter stuff that they had wasn't the same size and wasn't going to fit onto my system. I had to actually buy the stuff and come home with it and figure it out when I held everything up next to each other and say, oh, this isn't going to work. So I had to bring that stuff back. Now, that's another thing I really like about Home Depot. A lot of times when you have to bring something back, they make it seem like it's such a burden that they're doing for you. Home Depot, it's none of that. They just said, I just walked in and said, yeah, got the wrong thing. And they said, no problem. They checked me back in, scanned everything back in that I had ordered, looked at the receipt, compared it to the receipt, had me put my card in the machine, punch in my PIN number, and they just transferred it right back. I was in and out of there in 2 minutes. Just like I said, another reason I really like Home Depot. So there we go, there's our finished product. You can really kind of now see what the whole platform thing was all about. And this is going to look real. I think this is going to do a good job. I'm looking forward to this. Now I really wanted to kind of get this done pretty quick because it's a nice day today, but coming Thursday and going for the next 10 to 14 days or so, there's a significant chance of rain coming. So I'd really like to see this thing get a lot of water in it and be ready to use at some point. So like I said, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to hop on this as quickly as possible. Yeah, I probably could have spent waited another weekend, gone and found the right rain gutters and modified that one, but like I said, at that point I would have missed the rain and probably might not even have had the opportunity to put it in because it's supposed to rain next weekend also. So maybe at some point if I decide I'm going to expand it and want to get a second barrel in here, we'll get a second one and put it over there. But for now, this is a good backup plan here. Hopefully I'll get a lot of nice, clean, fresh water for the yard in here. And I think that's all that I have for today. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.